How do you spell unfair? Magnolia Cox and the National Spelling Bee. Written by Newbery Honor winner Carol Boston Weatherford and illustrated by Coretta Scott King Illustrator Award winner Frank Morrison. How do you spell unfair? Candlewick Press, 2023 copyright. Magnolia Cox was no ordinary kid. Her idea of fun was reading the dictionary. From A to Z, she spelled words, meanings, and spellings. She loved to read, study, and spell. In 1936, the 8th grader won her school spelling bee. After Magnolia passed a 50-word written test and an oral competition, she advanced to the Beacon Journal newspaper's citywide bee. That April evening, Magnolia faced 50 of the city's best spellers. 3,000 people jammed the Armory in Akron, Ohio. Can you spell nervous? Nervous. Nervous. With butterflies in her stomach and a lump in her throat, Magnolia listened to pronunciations and definitions before spelling each word. Magnolia got ruled out. Teary-eyed, she got her coat and hat and prepared to go home. But someone urged her to stay. Due to an error, the judges brought her back. Magnolia correctly spelled daft, writ, pretentious, brusque, abstemious, gradate, felicitate, and apoplexy. Can you even pronounce these words? In the final rounds of the bee, Magnolia battled back and forth with John Huddleston until he tripped up on the word sciatic. After spelling the word that John had missed, Magnolia had just one more word to the title: voluble. V-O-L-U-B-L-E. Voluble. With those 7 letters, Magnolia became the first African American to win the Akron Spelling Bee. Her prize was $25 and a trip to the National Spelling Bee in Washington, D.C. Can you spell surprised? S-U-R-P-R-I-S-E-D. Surprised. At events all over Akron, Magnolia was the guest of honor. Backstage at the Palace Theater, the spelling dynamo met dancer and actor Bill Bojangles Robinson and jazz musician and composer Fats Waller. At the Akron City Club, she dined with local bigwigs. African American clubs held fundraisers, and black churches took up offerings to help with her travel costs. People also prayed for her. Akronites now mention Magnolia Cox in the same breath as the boxing champion Joe Louis and the track star Jesse Owens. Can you spell famous? F-A-M-O-U-S. Famous. Letters and telegrams poured in from far and wide. Magnolia's school community was rooting for her too. Her teacher, Miss Grieve, brought her a new dress, and a man gave her a beautiful necklace. Magnolia also received 2 dictionaries to study. She spent 3 periods a day prepping for the National Bee. She memorized 100,000 words. Can you spell dedication? D-E-D-I-C-A-T-I-O-N. Dedication. At Akron's Union Station, a military band and a crowd of thousands saw the spelling champ off to Washington. For her first train ride, Magnolia got on board with her mother, Miss Grieve, and Mabel Norris, a reporter from the Beacon Journal, the newspaper that sponsored the Akron Bee. "This is the most fun I've ever had," said Magnolia. Can you spell excited? E-X-C-I-T-E-D. Excited. But she was about to face some hard truths. Can you spell discrimination? D-I-S-C-R-I-M-I-N-A-T-I-O-N. Do you even know what it means? Magnolia would soon find out firsthand. On the train, Magnolia sat in coach, open to black and white passengers. But when the train reached the Maryland state line, she and her mother were forced to move to the blacks-only car. Back then, segregation was the law in the South. When Magnolia arrived in Washington, she and her mother had to stay with a black doctor because the hotel where the other spellers stayed was for white customers only. Magnolia and her mother couldn't even ride the main elevator at the spelling bee banquet. They had to climb the stairs. Inside the banquet hall, they were seated away from the other spellers and their families. She and Elizabeth Kenny from Plainfield, New Jersey, were the first African American students to compete at the National Spelling Bee since 9 newspapers founded the competition in 1925. The 2 black girls had to enter the ballroom through a back door and were seated at a card table apart from the other spellers. Can you spell racism? R-A-C-I-S-M. Racism. Though second-class treatment met her at every turn, Magnolia couldn't afford to get rattled. She had to concentrate and to believe in herself. She remained calm and nailed word after word. Can you spell focus? F-O-C-U-S. Focus. The judges threw harder and harder words at the spellers. In the audience, Miss Grieve, Magnolia's teacher, bit her lip. One by one, the competition fell. Elizabeth Kenny misspelled appellation and placed 10th. When Doris Rubin misspelled acceptability, Magnolia advanced to the final 5. The judges, mostly from the segregated South, couldn't seem to stump her, and then they threw a curveball. A word that Magnolia hadn't studied. Nemesis. N-E-M-A-S-I-S, she answered. Magnolia's teacher and the newspaper reporters protested. They argued that the word nemesis was not on the official list. Furthermore, in Magnolia's dictionary, the word was a proper noun referring to a Greek goddess and thus not acceptable. The judges stood by their decision. Can you spell unfair? U-N-F-A-I-R. Magnolia was out. But what an achievement! She had made history by becoming a finalist in the National Spelling Bee. The spellers spent the rest of the week sightseeing. They visited the White House and the Washington Monument. Magnolia saw stamps being printed at the Bureau of Engraving. Can you spell amazed? A-M-A-Z-E-D. At the end of the whirlwind trip, Magnolia took home a $75 prize and was honored with a big homecoming parade. Can you spell proud? P-R-O-U-D. Even though she didn't win the championship, Magnolia had proven that African American students are as smart as anyone and can compete and excel when given a level playing field. That was Magnolia's triumph. I love an epilogue in a book. It always gives me more information or the rest of the story. I'm going to share a few things from this epilogue. Be sure and find this book in the library and check it out and read the rest yourself. Magnolia Cox was smart enough to excel at any career. However, she could not afford to attend college and wound up working as a maid for a doctor. She died in 1976 at age 53. In 1998, Jody Ann Maxwell from Jamaica became the first person of African descent to win the Scripps National Spelling Bee. In 2021, 14-year-old Zayla Avantgarde became the first African American to win the Scripps National Spelling Bee. The winning word was Mariah, the name for a genus of tropical trees. That same year, the U.S. Senate passed a resolution honoring Magnolia Cox's life, legacy, and achievements.